Good morning, dear friends. As you can see, I'm not from around here, so I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Father Christy David Patiala. That's my full name. It's easier to stick to the first name. I come from the Archdiocese of Verapolli back in India, and I'm here standing before you on behalf of the Archdiocese for the mission appeal. It's been a few years now that I've been in the United States. I'm right now serving in the Diocese of Bismarck up in North Dakota. And before I begin with any of the mission appeal or what we do over there, especially for the formation, I would like to start with my own vocation story. And I cannot but say about this because I first thought that I was going to St. Louis Church, but when I came to know that I'm coming to this church, I knew that I have to share this vocation story, and you'll know about it in a bit. So this started when I was a young kid. When I was a young boy, so back at home, I have my brother, my older brother, and my dad and mom. So it's just 4 of us. And when I was a young boy, one day, my brother and myself, the 2 of us, we were watching a cartoon. We call it animated movies now, but it was basically a cartoon. And as I was watching this, I fell into a febrile convulsion. I had fits, and I was on the floor, and I was all shaking. My brother did not know what to do, and so he rushed to the room, to the next room, and he got my dad and mom. They took me to the hospital, where I was admitted to the intensive care unit, and I was unconscious for around 9 to 11 hours. The doctors were trying different medicines, but my body was not responding to these medicines. At the end of these 9 to 11 hours, the doctors come to my parents, and they tell them, there's no chance for him to survive. Even if he survives, they add, he would either be paralyzed or abnormal. Now, I usually get a kick from this part because when I was sharing my experience, when I first came to the United States, to Monsignor Tom Richter, the rector of the cathedral at that time, I was assigned to the cathedral. And when I was telling the story, I reached this point, and Monsignor Tom, in all the goodness and the jolly good man that he is, he said seriously with Christy, the doctors got one thing right. I guess you guys also know that. But coming back to the story, I think it's the prayers of my parents that helped me see my body through. So after some time, my body started responding to the medicines, and I was fine, and I came back home. But from that day onwards, there was a problem with me. Not the old one, but there was another problem, and this was I couldn't eat anything cold, I couldn't drink anything cold, I couldn't face a cold wind. Now I know what you guys are thinking, because that's what the people in North Dakota also thought. What is he doing in North Dakota if he cannot face a cold wind? And then I respond to this saying that this is proof that God does miracles in our lives. Now the reason was if any of these 3 things happened to me, I would catch fever. And the fever is not the normal fever. My body temperature would just start rising, and there was no end to it. So the doctors advised my parents to always give me an ice bath whenever this happens, because they feared that if this continued, the organs in my body would stop functioning one by one, which would eventually lead to death. And so every time I got this fever, I was given an ice bath. And boy, it wasn't a good experience. It's when your body is all heated up, you're put on this bed of ice, and you get all these poking sensations. So we had ice cubes in the freezer, not to have drinks, but rather for my ice bath all the time I got this fever. Now, it was okay for me not facing a cold wind. It was okay for me not drinking anything cold. But the one thing that I couldn't stand was not having anything cold to eat. And what is it that we eat and that is cold? Ice cream, yep, you guys know better. So I couldn't have ice cream, and I never knew the taste of that. Now, every time I got this fever, my parents would take turns. They would change the ice as it melts and then put new ice. And after that, when my body temperature was down, they would rush me to the hospital. The doctors would take a tissue sample from my throat, and they would give me a dose of medicine. So most of the times it was the same medicine, but sometimes it was a different dose of medicine. And so every time I go, my mother would keep on collecting this, and by the end of a few years, we had a library of medicines, not a library of books. And this continued with me. The one good thing was I could ask my parents for anything, and they would give it to me. No. But I should have been more intelligent now that I think about it. I used to ask for these small chocolates with the toys inside, and at any time of the night, they would just go and get it for me because they knew that they were not sure whether I would be there the next moment or not. And this continued for many years. When my brother used to have this ice cream, all I could do was just look at it. And my dad, out of pity, would buy me the cone of the ice cream. And he would say, well, at least you have half of the ice cream. Be happy with that. And so I was kind of happy, but not so happy. It was at this time, we as a family were blessed to go to Lourdes. So we go to Lourdes in the month of June. I still remember it. It was in 1989. And I was a young kid. And we get down the train. That's for the first time that I see hailstones. So it was cold, but my mother had all these medicines with her, and she kept on giving me these medicines. We get down the train, and we start walking to this place. Now, as we were walking, in between all these shops that were there on the sides, there was only one shop that caught my attention. Can you guess what it was? Oh, yes, thank you. It was an ice cream parlor, so I just wanted to have ice cream. It's human tendency that we always crave for the things that we don't get. And so I pulled my mother's dress. It's called a sari, the Indian dress. And I told my mom, Ma, can I have an ice cream in our local language? And I knew what she would say. I knew that she would say, you know it's not good for you. You know that it's going to kill you. It's not good for your health. So it's a big no. And I knew that, but hey, I thought I'll give it a try. But that day, my mother's answer really surprised me. She said, if you have faith in Our Lady, after taking bath in the water, we can come and have the ice cream. Now, my mom is a teacher, and she knew how to deal with a mischievous kid on the street. And I knew my mom too well. So I told my mom, yes, I have faith. Let's first have the ice cream and then go. What if she changes her mind? I was thinking at that time. But my mom was in a good way strict, and she said, no, we're going to this place, we're going to have the ice cream, and then we come back. So I was all excited, and we go to this place. Over there, it's like two different queues, one for the gents, one for the ladies. And so it was me, my brother, and my dad. We walk into this room with a cubicle kind of depression with water stored in it, and two people stand on both sides, and they hold us by the hand and dip us for the children. And so I dipped, my brother was also dipped, and then my dad walks into the water, and then we are waiting outside. Now, before I took bath, right in front of me was a young boy who was physically and mentally challenged. And as we were waiting outside, this boy was pushed in a pram, and his mother was coming. There was a lady that came to us with this boy. She places 5 francs in my hand, and she says, go and have your ice cream. These were the words she used. She gave 5 francs to my brother as well. She spoke to my father for some time, and then she leaves from there. Now, as she was going, she turns back and says, pray for my son. These were the only words that she said to me. And then she leaves. After some time, my mom comes. We narrate this whole story and incident to her. We search for this lady, but we do not find her. The next thing my mom tells is pretty interesting. She says, even if he dies, we are buying him that ice cream. That was her faith. It was a simple faith, but it was a strong faith. And I still remember we went to that same ice cream parlor. We gave those 5 franc coins which were given to us. The guy at the counter said chocolate ice cream would cost 15 francs, so he gave us the 5 franc coins back. My dad paid for it, and I had, for the first time in my life, chocolate ice cream. My mom still has those 2 5 franc coins, and she keeps it in a locker. That's how valuable she knows it is to her and to us. But guys, I've been having ice cream from then, and I've never had a fever as such. Hey, I'm in North Dakota. I've been there for quite some years, and I've never had a fever. And throughout all these years, after that incident, I've been trying to have ice cream for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, trying to make up to it. But yes, I know that I was healed on that day, and I believe, just like you do as well, that day, that lady who came to me was Mother Mary. That's my faith. That's my belief. That day, that child was baby Jesus who took something that I should have had when I was a kid. And that's why I narrated this whole story to you. I know I've taken a lot of your time, but the reason why I went into so much details is to let you know that God does have miracles in our lives in many ways. Now, if I'd said it from a different perspective, I would have said, I went to France by chance, by luck, as we call it. I was okay and everything went on well. I wouldn't have gone into so minute of the details. The reason why I want to tell you this is because we all have miracles in our life, my dear friends. It could be through our events, it could be through our friends, through our family, through someone whom we don't know. And God works through us and in us. We just need to slow ourselves down. When we go on the highway, we go pretty fast. I don't know what the speed limits over here are, 70, 80, 90, but we do go above the speed limits, to be honest. We go 5 above the speed. Are there any cops here, by the way? No, just kidding. We go 5 above the speed limit, 10 above the speed limit, and when we drive fast, we forget to see the wonderful things around us. We just concentrate on the road. We just focus on the road. God is inviting us today to slow down our lives, to slow down the pace of our lives, so that we may see how God is touching us wonderfully through the people and friends and events around us. Now, back in our diocese, in our archdiocese, I know we have seminarians. We have 165 seminarians for the archdiocese who have different vocation stories, who would love to share their experience of God to the people around, who would love to share Christ. And we are getting more vocations. But unfortunately, the funds that we have are restricted. And so the Archbishop, with a heavy heart, has to turn down some of the vocations because we are not able to fund all the seminarians. And so that is why I'm standing here today to request your generosity, to request your benevolence in donating for our mission appeal. And the main project for the mission appeal is the formation of the seminarians throughout the many years. We also have projects of helping out the women to be self-efficient in their lives. Also the children for their educations, and also the houses that we build for the projects. We live in a coastal area, and the previous tsunami that hit us is still having an impact today in many of the houses and households. And so we are helping these families to recover from all the disasters that have affected them. And so I would request your generosity on behalf of the Archdiocese of Verapoli for this mission appeal. The mission appeal collection will be done for the second collection for today's Mass. And if anyone is interested to know about the seminary formations that take place in our diocese or archdiocese, you're more than welcome to visit me after Mass. I will be at the back of the church. I would ask you to pray for us and to pray for more vocations in this world. May God bless each one of us.